try to keep it reasonably affordable and attainable for guys. You know, not everybody has to quit their job. Some people kind of like work remotely. You know, we get IT guys who do computer programming and they work remotely, or maybe they fly out once every 2 months and check in at the office. Or we get guys who are entrepreneurs, or guys who we even have, believe it or not, we have a guy who's retired in the house right now. He's 60 years old and he's in the house learning pickup. So he's retired. He doesn't have to work anymore. We got two guys that are in college and they attend college in the area, and then they come to the pickup mansion on the weekends and for our workshops and stuff. So there's ways to make it work if you want it bad enough. And you know, we have 9 spots and they're always full. So there's a lot of people out there who want it really bad.
That's great. I'm a big fan of long-term coaching as well. It's
Yeah.
kind of like I do salsa dancing, and it's like the people that go there for the weekly lessons, they never get really good because it doesn't stack, right? When you get really good is when you join a performance team, or when you actually focus a few weeks on just relearning one performance routine. That's when your results just go through the roof.
Yeah,
You never hit
totally.
that tipping point otherwise, and I think that's the same with pickup also.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys who are in the pickup mansion, I mean, they go through such drastic changes. Even the process of deciding to do it and moving in.
Right.
When you get there and you've been there for 3 days, you're saying to yourself, "Wow, there's no going back now. You know, I am going to be approaching all the time for the next 12 months." And when you know that there's no going back, and you're really being serious and your actions are aligned with your intentions, um, it's a different mindset. It's a different way of looking at it, and it's a different result um, at the end of the day. The seduction community has a lot of guys who are serious students, but there's also a lot of guys who are afraid to take that jump, are afraid to commit to anything, are afraid to even go out and use the stuff that they've been reading. They want to do it so badly and they just don't do it. So Pick a Mansion and 30-30 Club are 12-month commitments. Once you're in, you're in. It's like college. You know, once you get to college, you know you're going to be there for a while. You can't just like leave out of nowhere. And that's the kind of commitment that really changes a person's learning process.
Right, life decisions, if you will.
Yeah.
Cool. I'd like to transition a little bit into actual techniques and whatnot. I think this is the part where a lot of people get the most, at least the most to-do value. Like, oh, here's something
Yeah.
I can take and use it tonight.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. You, I just checked your blog. You had written a thread about science proves I'm not crazy. I really liked it. I read the first 2 posts. It's about taking scientific experiments and kind of dissecting it and relating it to pickup. You talk about the
Yeah.
halo effect and social value projection that girls do
Yeah.
really well. Talk
Yeah.
talk to the viewers a little bit about that thread.
Okay. So, um, back when I was in college, I studied psychology. That was my major, and we learned about all these psychological effects, and we learned social psychology, which makes people act in ways that they would never normally act. And we also learned about what's called cognitive biases. So what a cognitive bias is, it's an idea that you carry around with you all the time that makes you see the world in a way that's not accurate. Um, so a very common cognitive bias that people have is called the halo effect. And the halo effect is very directly related to pickup. Not everything in psychology is related to pickup, and you can't use all of it, so I've tried to kind of grab a few of the things that are most applicable. So this is what the halo effect is. This is what it means. The halo effect is when you see a person and that person is physically attractive. And since they're physically attractive, you start to assume a lot of other positive things about that person. So you might assume that that person is intelligent. You might assume that that person had a good upbringing. You might assume that they are educated. You might assume that they have money or have a good job. You might assume that they're a very positive person and they don't have problems or a lot of stress. Um, so if you just kind of take that in for a second, you might say, well, I don't really look at it that way just because somebody's attractive. But, it happens all the time. I see guys in the field, and this is what happens. When they see a woman who's attractive and they're thinking about approaching her, they get that girl all built up. They build it up in their head until she's like this superhuman person. They assume that, she doesn't have any problems and she's amazing and she's intelligent. And so then when you get into a conversation with that woman, even if you only believe these things on a subconscious level, you're going to be projecting all of those things onto this woman during the course of the conversation. And so what this tends to cause is supplicating. Guys tend to start supplicating to the girl. They'll be kissing her ass because they're assuming that this girl is so much more valuable and so much more together than he, the student, is. When in reality, it's not always the case. Some of my students are really together guys, and even some of them who are only like moderately together guys have things going way better than some of these girls that you meet in bars or clubs or even day game.
Right.
Some of these girls have, psychiatric problems and like drug problems and all kinds of problems, or like checkered past, or like their dad used to beat them, their uncle used to finger them, like all kinds of skeletons in the closet, but when girls go out, they know how to leverage the halo effect to their benefit. So a girl goes out and gets, a cheap yet sexy dress at Forever 21, and she puts it on and she dyes her hair blonde and she puts on makeup and she gets fake titties, and then every guy she meets is treating her like she's a superhuman, like incredible person. And she's leveraging that to see what kinds of advantages she can get in life from that appearance and from that halo effect. So one of the things we try to have our students do is, meet women and, give them the benefit of the doubt to some degree, but don't automatically assume that she's better than you. Because just because a person is attractive doesn't mean they're better than you. And reserve judgment. Don't judge the girl until you know her. Get into the conversation. It's fine to be interested, but don't show all that interest all at once, and proceed with caution. Get to know her and make your judgments along the way based on evidence, based on what she's saying. Don't just automatically assume how amazing she is just because of how she looks, and this gets a more attractive attitude, because the girl can tell you're not kissing her ass just yet, and she can tell you're sizing her up still, and that's the end result that we're going for. We want the girl to feel like this, like one of my students is just kind of sizing her up, just kind of feeling her out, not totally convinced yet, a little maybe leery of a few things that she says, and this is going to make the girl know that the halo effect is not working, and she has to prove herself in a more legitimate way, because she's not dealing with just another sucker. She's dealing with a worldly kind of man who's seen this kind of stuff before, and he's not just going to hand over his nuts in the first 30 seconds.
It helps if you've slept with some of these girls, right? And you get to know them. Oh, okay, they're not the package deal I thought they were.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Okay. This happens in modeling too. I think it's the term lookism, which is you assume that if a guy or girl is good looking, you assume certain qualities about them automatically. And the word comes from, actually it's a derivative of racism. It's the fact that we judge someone before we get to see their behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. I had a personal subject I wanted to talk about, which is one night stands. And I know I've read some of your field reports about this. You're actually, my understanding is you're pretty good at same night lays. Am I correct?
Yeah, I've done a ton of those.
Okay, talk to me about that, because I'm not so good at that. I do get, like, there's like a, what do you call it, a cell cycle for me, right? I'll get numbers, and then eventually they'll become girlfriends. But I'm not as good at laying the girl on the same night. Give me the basics of how you do one night stands. I think specifically, this is a selfish question, but I wrote this down. I said, talk to me about one night stand. How do you spot the girls that are just DTF?
Okay, cool. Hey, man, I bet a lot of guys want to know about that, not just you. Um, all right, let me talk about that question first, because that's a really short answer, and then we'll get into like in-depth one-night stand stuff. Um, can you spot girls who are just DTF? Yeah, I mean, you're not always going to guess right, but there are times when you can spot it. You know, I've spotted it. My coaches can sometimes spot it. It's really advanced though. I mean, unless you've been in the field for years and you've had 20, 30 same day pulls, it's not likely you're gonna have that ability to spot it. I'll tell you what I look for, but I'm just telling you also that this is very advanced, and I don't know if it's something you should focus on unless you're very advanced. Um, Girls who are just down, they hold stronger eye contact. If a girl holds eye contact for like longer than a second and a half, it's, you know, very likely that she's down. Um, they tend to be like kind of laughing louder and like moving in a more animated way, because they're kind of in a good mood and they're in a high state. You know, high state girls um, are easier to take home than like low state girls who are like super negative. Um, and they also tend to be like a lot more touchy feely with their female friends. So if you see two girls and one of them's just touching the other a lot, and she's talking and she's really animated and she's loud and she's laughing and she's dancing, you know, that's pretty much what I look for. Um, but like I said, it's really hard to sense it. It's like a skill that takes years to learn. So let's go into some more, basic one night stand strategies that anybody can use.
Yeah, I read somewhere the girls who are near ovulation tend to dress less too. I think David Bostock